How's it going on? First things first, right? I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time here. You got a new object in front of you. I'm going to give you some time here. Just take your time, block it in. Think about those three-dimensional shapes. For a second, help me out real quick if you would. You were our winner last time, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So help me out real quick. We had a game last time. You won it. So what were the five shapes, or excuse me, the five forms, not the three. We had three shapes, five forms. What were the five forms that we were working with? Cubes.
Spheres, cylinders.
Cube, spheres, cylinders, what else? Think triangle.
We had pyramids.
Pyramids?
And something else.
Pyramids and something else.
Oh, I know.
What's a pyramid with a different kind of bottom on it? Like
Okay.
a cone, toads. Alright. Toads. Alright. So the first day we started talking about blocking and we talked about these five forms. We said that they are so uber important because everything, doesn't matter how complicated it is, everything can be made up of these five forms, right? And so if you take your time, even though your brain really, really wants to do outlines, so say I was going to draw your mug right there, right? Your brain really wants to do like this here. Be like, okay, well, it kind of does this, like a big power plant looking thing, okay? And then I just put a circle on top, and a circle in the bottom, and then there's like a handle there, I guess, right? So your brain wants to do, but instead, take the time, right? And it's not easy, I won't lie, it's not easy. But take the time to think about, okay, if I'm drawing your mug, right? I would say maybe that it starts off as like a cylinder, right? Draw in X-ray vision mode, right? Then it kind of pinches toward the middle, so then it kind of scoopy scoops, scoop in there, right? Okay, so same kind of shape, but it's a little more solid, right? Then your handle kind of comes out here like a rectangle, almost like a heart shape, if you would, right? So it's not a half circle; it's kind of more of a whoop up and over, right? So this kind of comes down and around town. Kind of thicken it up a little bit. Give it some dimensions because it's a rectangle in there. Right? And then it's got a little thumb handle. Guys. Awesome. So, give a little thumb dongle right on top there. Right? Think about it in three dimensions. Maybe eventually we'll get into shading. Maybe there's some shading down in here. Now yours is made out of metal. We'll get into how to draw metal soon. But you can see, kind of blocking it in real quick, lets us think about it more in three dimensions, right? So again, stay away from outlines, right? They are no good. Instead, think in three dimensions using that form, right? So we already know how to do that, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you just a minute here real quick. Take your time. If you would, go ahead and block in your object. I don't need any detail whatsoever. I just need you to think about it as a three-dimensional form. What forms can we stack on top of each other to recreate this object? Got any questions? All right, take your time, take your time. So you're blocking in your object, you're thinking about it in three dimensions. Something else you might want to think about, just as you're drawing, continue on, but something else you might want to think about again, we talked about proportions in our last class, right? We talked about height versus width. So again, if I was drawing your mug, I could look at it and say, okay, it's going to be 1.5 tall compared to wide. So whatever the width is, and I can say whatever it is, right? So say like this is the mouth of that bottle, of that mug, right? It looks like I've got maybe one, so there's one, and maybe two, something like that, and it's only like a half, somewhere there. So that's kind of the base of my mug. Somewhere in here is that mug, right? And that's how you're going to figure out your proportions. It's simply by doing that technique we talked about last class called comparative measurement. The idea of one versus another, right? What's the width versus the height? Width versus height. Eventually, because we're drawing three-dimensional objects, eventually we'll get into depth, especially whenever we're talking about rectangles, kind of going back into space, but we'll get there sooner than later. So for right now, you're just kind of thinking about height versus width, and then you're kind of blocking it in a little bit. You can freehand occasionally. Maybe you want to do like two cones or something. That could work for that same shape. And the thing is this, however you choose to draw it is the best option for you, right? There isn't one magical, perfect way of drawing it. You find what works for you as long as you're thinking in three dimensions. That's the big key. If you're still drawing perfectly, if you're still drawing like outlines, that's not good because you're thinking in 2 dimensions, right? We don't want 2D, we want 3D, okay? So you're thinking in 3 dimensions. Okay, all right, so stop there for a second. Now again, maybe you finish, maybe you didn't, that's fine. But you guys, how many of you, just by show of hands, how many of you feel comfortable or confident, let's say, in 3 dimensions? Maybe there's no detail, but you're definitely thinking in 3 dimensions, right? Kind of ovals and circles. Okay, perfect. That's a little bit more than half is about where we should be. That's perfect. All right, so today I'm going to introduce a couple of new techniques that you may choose to use, and frankly, you may not choose to use. That's okay. I'm going to teach you 4 different types of new techniques that you might find like maybe only 2 of them really work well for you, and that's okay. I just want to add more tools to your toolbox that'll help you along the way, okay? So last class, not only did we talk about drawing in proportion, right? Again, kind of width versus height, right? We talked about that. We also talked about that thing if your objects were a little bit leaning, right? We talked about that if they were kind of like droopy, right? We talked about how to get a plumb line and then build out of that plumb line. So if I draw a line straight down and then make things kind of parallel so that they're symmetrical, that way it'll kind of keep things nice and straight, right? So you got that plumb line already. You know about comparative measurement already. And I can't stress enough how important comparative measurement really is to your drawing. Because especially whenever we're getting to drawing faces and anatomy, bodies and stuff, using comparative measurement will really make your life just immensely more easy. But, all right, so I'm going to teach you a couple things. So with the object that you have drawn right now, it's more 3-dimensional in that, so I'm just going to hammer out something real quick. Let's do this. I'm just going to kind of make a quick little bottle, just kind of out of my imagination. I probably shouldn't do this. I probably should draw off of something, but I'm not going to because I'm lazy, and I'm your teacher. I can do that. Okay. All right, so tra-la-la. All right. Cool, good enough. All right, so there's my bottle. It's a little bit droopy, but it'll be just fine. All right. So the first technique I want to talk about today is a thing called a contour line. Now, obviously, I know it's no surprise to you guys. I wake up in the morning, I roll out of bed, right? Brush the old teethy. I comb my hair because there's a lot of it to be worried about. And then, of course, I sit down at my makeup desk and I start contouring my makeup on my face. You guys know what that's like, obviously. The girls don't, but men in the room, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You really contour the nose to make it kind of stand. Okay, so contouring in the world of makeup is very, very similar to contouring here. The idea is this. We're trying to give the illusion of 3-dimensional space, right? Whenever you contour on your face with makeup and stuff, you're trying to kind of suck things in and push them around with using light and highlights and stuff, right? We're going to do the same thing here. So here's how contour lines work in art, right? So the first thing is this. You guys probably have done this at some point in your life, maybe in like 3rd grade. I used to have my class do this, and then I realized how kind of kiddie it is, so we're not going to. They're fun. I still do them when I'm bored, but we're not doing that as a class project. How many of you guys have ever done this before? So you draw your hand. So I'm just going to trace mine on here like a chicken. Okay, there's my Thanksgiving turkey. Of course, there he is. Okay, so how many of you guys have done this like in 3rd grade, right? You have a teacher do this, and then you draw a straight line, and then you kind of bump it. Straight line. Kind of goes here, you bumpity bump. Right? You guys have done this kind of thing before? Right? Okay. So, if you have, well, that messed up, oh well. If you have done this before, then you already know what I'm talking about, because this is a super, super rudimentary version of contour lines. Basically, I'm giving the illusion that this hand is 3-dimensional by curving my line, right? So if I were to draw like straight lines on this bottle, that makes it look super flat, right? Because it's just a line floating on top of it. I want to give the illusion that this thing is actually floating here in 3 dimensions. So what I can do is this. I'm going to show you the bare bones basics, and then I'll let you kind of show or see some shortcuts. So for example, I've already got kind of an oval down here on the bottom. So I'm literally just going to copy paste that thing all the way straight up. So it'll be something like this. And I can overlap my lines, that's fine. There's no particular height that's correct or right or wrong. Okay, there's that. Then it gets a little bit shorter toward the neck here as it comes on up. A little bit shorter. Okay, and again, they're not perfect, that's okay. Oops. Okay. So what I've basically done is almost like this thing's being teleported in Star Trek, right? It's getting these like little lines over it. Sound effects help sometimes. But the idea that this thing's kind of like being beamed up, or there's like a weird like tornado of hula hoops wrapping around this thing, right? And here's the thing. What you can do, I'll just kind of switch my lines real quick. What I can do is this. Instead of drawing those hoop-de-hoops around here, which you can do, you're welcome to, but instead, what if I just drew like just the front part, just that curve of that line on top, right? And what I'm basically doing by curving those lines is very similar to this thing you did when you were in, kindergarten or whatever. The idea is I'm bending those lines to allow this object to look even more three-dimensional, right? So take your time, try to do these horizontal, kind of curving contour lines. Okay, take your time. There might be a part of your object, because we all have different objects, might be a part that's totally confusing and weird and awkward, and that's okay. For right now, try it. It's okay, it's just a sketch. Try it out, let's see where we're at, okay? So get something on your page. I'm going to sketch mine out once more here real quick. So all you're doing, you're thinking about how you blocked it in. You're thinking about this object in 3 dimensions, not outlines. Not outlines. Okay. Think about in 3 dimensions. Take your time. If you're just going around, if you want to make the whole oval, that's okay. If you don't, that's okay too. If you find that your object is super confusing, you've got like multiple pieces kind of glued together, excuse me, do one basic form first, right? So if I had like, maybe there's like a handle sticking out over here, right? Okay, that's really 2-dimensional, but still, right? So I would kind of bend my lines. I would do all of this first, right? Then I'd say, okay, well, this line would kind of bend around like that. This line would kind of, and then he'd kind of bend, right? Do the part you know first, and then get to the part you don't know. That's okay. Okay. So you've got these horizontal lines going all the way across your picture. They kind of make up our contour lines. Okay. Good? Okay. So I'm just going to kind of hammer mine out real quick. Again, they do not have to be perfect. That's not what we're about. All we're doing is these are going to help you see your object in 3 dimensions. That's all they do. So that's a very simplified form of kind of thinking in contour, thinking in kind of a curving outline. Now, eventually we're going to get into contours where you do like a simple outline, and we'll get to that later. But for right now, we're bending these lines. So we're going to do what's called a cross contour drawing. You've already got half of it, right? So cross, obviously, are 2 lines that crisscross. So we've got horizontal. So let's go ahead then and add in our verticals, right? So here's how they go. So I'm going to tell you this right now just to make things easy. The line right down the middle, bisecting the entire thing, is perfectly straight. Okay? It seems like it shouldn't be, because again, we want to kind of bend our lines to make it look 3-dimensional. But that line right down the middle, perfectly straight. So everything on this side of the line and everything on this side of the line here, they're going to bend with your outline, right? So when this comes out, when this goes down, up, you get the idea. So it'll look something like this. I'll change my color. So I'm going to come straight down, kind of hit that point, bend out, kind of hit that point, bend down. Straight down, bend out, bend down. Straight out, down. Straight out, down. Now again, you're going to hit points that you're not 100% sure on. Again, try it. Don't stress out about it, I promise. Just try it. Even if you're horribly wrong, who cares? You're not being great on this at all. We're just learning a new technique. What you basically end up with, or at least should end up with, is something, bless you, that looks kind of like a wireframe, like in a computer, or if you were to like sculpt this object out of like chicken wire, right? It kind of looks like that, like this kind of weird crisscrossy mesh over top of your picture, right? Totally, totally. And here's the thing, right? This is, again, not something, I don't even like it. I very rarely use this. Cross contour lines take too much time. There's something that I very rarely use. But they might help you think in 3 dimensions, like where your object starts to kind of scoop and bend. They also will absolutely, positively help you for our next class's lesson. Because our next class, we're going to start thinking about lighting, right? And so I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not even going to hold anything back. I'll tell you right now, whenever we do cross contours for our next class, lighting, let's say that there's a light source coming from this direction. Lighting is going to really help us out because instead of having to think about, oh, well, it's going to kind of reflect here, bounce over here, go over here, all that stuff. Skip that. Instead, I can literally look at this almost like a checkerboard that's wrapped around my object. And I can literally start coloring in these squares and say, okay, there's definitely no light over here. There's a lot of light over here. And I can literally start coloring. So I get this kind of checkerboardy pattern all over my object. Then I literally go through, I blend it out. I'll show you a technique for that. I blend it out, and you have a super realistic object. Okay? So we feel good so far. 3-dimensional cross-contour lines. Good? Again, if yours isn't perfect, I'm not that stressed about it. It's just thinking about these things in a new way. Okay? All right. Next up. I'm going to try... All right, so I have 2 different other kinds of lines. So we know we have kind of horizontal lines. We know we have kind of cross-contour lines, horizontal and vertical. I have 2 other techniques that we want to use, and we're going to play some games with today. About halfway through the day, we're going to pause, switch gears a little bit. We're going to play a game for about half of this class today. Well, we should have probably a good 10 minutes at the end of the day that are just 100% yours. Okay, we're going to finish a little early today. That's fine by me. So here we go. Ready? So the next one I want to introduce you to is a particular type called a blind contour line. Blind as in like cannot see. Okay, a blind contour. Okay, so we have this blind contour line. Now here's what I want you to do. Take your sketchbook, kind of find a nice open spot, whether it's on a new page or in the corner somewhere, wherever you got to go, that's fine. Okay, find your object and kind of put your object, let's say, I'll do this jug. Put your object so that you can see it clearly, and kind of take your sketchbook and kind of push it off on the side a little bit. So it's just kind of, you can still draw on it, but it's kind of off to the side. Okay? Here's how blind contours work. They sound horrible, and they kind of are. Here's how they work. It's really easy. Okay? I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. Okay. So, I'm going to draw this little jug that I have right here in front of me. I'm going to draw this, but I can look at the object all I want. I can turn it around, do whatever I need to do, but I am absolutely, positively not allowed to look at my drawing. Okay? It is a blind contour. Okay? So, here's how it goes. Ready? I'll do one first just so you can kind of mock me a little bit. That's fine by me. Okay, here we go. So, I've got my bottle. I'm going to think about blocking it in, and here's what's going to happen. In my brain, because there's no way I can show you what's inside my head, in my brain, it's terrifying in there. I'm actually going through and thinking about, okay, how do I block this in? I'm thinking about shapes kind of floating in space, like weird Lego blocks that I'm just kind of sticking together. And I'm going to try my best to draw that, but it gets really, really bad. So I'm going to do one first. Feel free to laugh at me, because it's going to be a horrible train wreck. I've done this a million times, and they're never good. So here we go. All right. Okay. Start at the top, and I get like a, okay, there's a cone shape. Okay, then I've got, oh, okay, so there's a sphere at the top. This comes around. There's a cylinder that comes down. Thank you. I'm not even done yet. So there's my cylinder. Then I've got a handle over here. The handle's kind of a cylinder on its side. Okay, all right. I'm sure it's looking good. So then I've got, let's see, a little bit of detail here. I'll kind of smooth this out a little bit. Smooth this. I'm going to smooth the handle into the base of the object right around here. Kind of wrap it around. Now there's a little bit of detail in the neck. I've got like a little part where like a cap could go on, so I'm going to put those little rivets right in there. Okay, and then there's a little bit of a glare. Oh, I'll get into lighting. There's a glare right here. Okay, and then of course a horizon line. That makes it look realistic. And you know what? I'm going to go crazy and put a little bit of shading on it. I've got time. I'll do some shading. So let's see. I've got a little bit of darkness on this side. This comes around. And then of course a cast shadow. If this was sitting on a table, it would have a cast shadow kind of coming away. Okay, now before I look at it, because I'm sure it's perfect, okay, here's the thing. You might ask yourself, why, in all that is good and holy in this universe, why would Mr. Kosek, your beloved art teacher, make you do such a horrible, horrible thing? Oh, God. All right, so what's happening is this. Your drawing will not be good. I'm telling you that right now, okay? I'm the teacher, and mine looks like this, all right? Your drawing will not be good, but here's the big key. What it's doing, and I mean this in all sincerity now, okay? This is like a science lesson for a second. What's happening is this. In your brain, your mind is used to making new neurons and new connections. Those are called a synapse, right? Whenever one neuron electrically shocks another one, right? I'm kind of dumbing it down, but you get the idea, right? Now here's the thing. Think about it this way. What your brain is trying to do, and we're going to exercise this 3 different ways today. What your brain is going to be doing here in a second, because you can't see the paper, your brain is literally going to imagine these shapes kind of floating in front of you, right? Thinking about them in a new way in 3 dimensions. I'll give you a prime example. Think about it this way. If all of a sudden the bell rang and there was a fire alarm, There's not. Don't worry. But if we did like a fire drill, you've done about 14 million fire drills in your lifetime, right? And so as a class, we'd kind of get up and we'd walk outside and we'd stand outside in the grass. Okay, bing, bing, and then we come back inside. Okay, you've done that a million times. Your body is used to this pathway, right? And it's walking to the next one. Here we go, right? But if I told you instead, if I added a little bit of urgency, if I said, hey guys, in about 3 seconds there's going to be a nuclear bomb dropped directly on top of our high school. You got 3 seconds, and as long as you get outside the building, you'll be just fine because it's protected by lead or something, right? I don't know, pretend it's magic. If I said that, you got 3 seconds, you're not going to sit here and go, now, when we did a fire drill, I casually walked to the back door, casually walked to the grass and stood outside. No, you're going to go, get the hell out! And you're going to be like kicking down walls and like punching grandparents and be like, yeah, I'm away, Grandma! And you're going to like survive, right? You have 3 seconds to make it, right?
Oh, God.
And honestly, we do that in real life, right? We do that in real life. Now here's the thing, your brain, electronically, your brain is doing the exact same thing. When I push you just a little bit outside your comfort zone, your brain says, okay, I'm used to doing it this way. I'm used to drawing a cylinder, right? A plain Jane cylinder. If I draw this object and I'm looking at it, I know what I'm doing, right? Okay, here's a circle, here's a cut off, here's a cylinder, right? You're used to doing something the same way all the time, all the time, all the time. I promise you guys all, because you're in an art class, have like 1 or 2 doodles that are kind of your go-to doodles, right? Whenever you're bored and, maybe yours is more elaborate. Maybe you have like a cartoon character that you like constantly doodle to, right? Oh,
Yeah.
right?
That's what I do.
Or maybe you're a little simpler, right? Maybe not simple, but maybe you like just the old classic go-to, right? Who doesn't love this thing?
Oh my God, that was like the thing
What?
that everyone
Like
did.
the weird S thing? That's the best, right? So we all have go-to doodles, right? But here's the thing. If I told you to do your go-to doodle without looking at it, you'd be like, okay, wait, there's lines, there's more lines, and this thing connect, and you're trying to imagine in your head, and it's failing you. You know you're doing poorly, but it'll still come out okay, right? Because this is what we're doing. We're creating brand new synapses in your brain. We're telling your brain there's an atomic bomb coming at it. And you have to find a new way of doing this thing that you already know how to do, right? And your brain is going to say, screw it, it's going to start punching down new walls and making brand new connections that are really solidifying things for you. So we're teaching your brain to do something it knows how to do in a new way. That's why we do these blind contours. I will tell you this, we're going to do this exercise again in different ways to reconnect your brain in a brand new way later on too. So I'm going to give you guys a minute. That's all you should need. Give you a minute. Look at your object. Do not look at your drawing. You can't look at your paper at all, okay? And God help you if you do. We're going to try this 3 different times, and I will tell you right now, first and foremost, horrible things will happen if I catch you looking at your paper. It's a game, and it's a game in the middle of the day. Okay, you ready? Okay, hand on paper. Get ready. All right. Excuse me. Yeah, you can use. Yeah, we're back to normal now. All right. So we just went through, and we did a whole bunch of line contours where you weren't allowed to look at what you were drawing on your paper. You were allowed to look at your object. And again, like I said, what's happening is it is rewiring your brain, literally. Okay? So I'm going to help you out. Some of you guys might have already done this kind of intrinsically. It might have already kind of happened naturally. Whenever you're drawing a line contour, sometimes it does. The next attempt we're going to do here is called a continual line drawing.
Oh, I've done no.
Totally. So here's how they work. I'll do one. You are welcome to look at your paper. You are more than welcome to look at your object. The key is this. You are absolutely not allowed to pick your pencil off the page once it's heavy. So for example, here we go. So if I'm drawing my water bottle, right? I'm going to do something like this.
It's like
almost worse than that.
oh, I hate those.
Oh, everyone does. Don't worry.
That project did suck. I now stuck on
Why?
the you had to only use it.
I'm still blocking it in. I'm still taking my time. Now, the best advice I can give you while you guys are doing a continual line drawing, the best advice I can give you is while you're going along and you're drawing these, again, you don't want to pick up your pencil, but try your best to think about that blocking in. Try your best to draw extra light, All right? I know it sounds kind of funny and weird, but the lighter you can draw, I promise the better time you're going to have with this, because you can always go back over top of it later. If you draw extra heavy, you can't really erase, I'll use air quotes for that, you can't really erase your drawing, right? But when you're all done, you can have something that looks, thank you. I'll be here all week. So, that's a continual line drawing. One line, constantly going. But again, I'm telling you, draw light. Draw very, very lightly, and it'll work out for you. Okay? You ready? Here we go.
New object or something.
Switch your objects. Switch those objects. I'm bored of those. Switch them. Okay. So here's the thing. You've got a weird mess of lines, but here's the key. If your lines look like this, let's say I was drawing my water bottle again. If your lines look like this, oh, come on. Then you are way too worried about that outline. Again, this is just, it's a continual line drawing, but it's basically an outline drawing. No bueno. If your lines on the other end of the spectrum, let's say they're super messy and they look like this. That's okay. Here's the thing. This is totally on the opposite end of the spectrum. It is super, super messy, right? But it looks three-dimensional, right? That's the key. This still looks like a couple lines on a paper, right? We don't want those. I'd rather you have lines all over the place, but still making it look three-dimensional. Bending those lines as opposed to outlines. Right, you with me? Make sense? Try it once more. Switch your object. We'll do one more round. All right, so we feel good, or you guys correct me if I'm wrong. So we should feel pretty good at this point about thinking in three dimensions, right? We've had 2 days to really kind of think about this, to really kind of work through. Now we're into our 3rd day of thinking about things in 3 dimensions, right? And as we're thinking in 3 dimensions, I just want to reiterate real quick, right? We went from basic shapes, we then moved into kind of the 3rd dimension, right? Thinking about these things in like X-ray vision mode, right? We then thought about how we could go through, use these, kind of stack them like blocks, right? Use these to block in the volume, the actual form of an object, right? So that we were able to get this 3-dimensional look. Now we're adding in a little bit more to the mix. And again, you might like line contours in the fact that they kind of go quick, right? Maybe you like that it's just kind of quick, down and dirty, and gets on the paper. That's fine. Maybe you like those kind of cross contour lines because they help you see this object in 3 dimensions. That's fine too. Whatever works for you. These are just tools I'm giving you, okay? They're just tools that I'm giving you. So here's the thing. At this point, you guys should feel relatively confident. Again, within reason, right? Within reason. We haven't even begun talking about shading and value, cast shadows, anything like that, and we will. We absolutely will. That's all of next class. But right here and right now, here's what we need to do. I need you guys to totally rewire your brain. Because here's the problem. Remember how our last class we talked about those nice kind of fuzzy lines? We drew those 2 dots. And we drew a line straight there to kind of build confidence in our lines, right? Because again, you don't want, you don't want this, right? And you definitely don't want like the single, slow, methodical line that wobbles. It takes too long, right? You just want quick, right? We talked about that last class. This class, we're going to do something very similar, except we're going to play a game with it, okay? How many of you guys have played like musical chairs before in your lifetime? I'm so sorry. It's a crazy game, right? Okay, so, or like Duck, Duck, Goose, same kind of thing, right? Kid games, right? Kid games, okay. So think about the premise of musical chairs or Duck, Duck, Goose. The premise is I walk around, some music plays. When the music stops, you gotta sit your butt down, and some jerk comes along and removes a chair occasionally. That's the game, right? We're gonna play a very similar kind of game. I made it up. It's an art game, and I guarantee you this: it is 100% guaranteed to rewire your brain. Okay? Because here's the problem. Just like with those confident lines, right? the way we correct the problem, the way we get rid of these kind of fuzzy lines, right, is to push you outside of your comfort zone. And that's what we're going to do in a second. What's going to happen is this. I'm going to play some music in the background, okay? I'm not going to tell you how long that music is going to be played, just like with musical chairs. You don't know when it's going to stop. I will give you a hint, though. The tempo of the music, the beat, right? The pattern we're going, right? The beat of the music will absolutely let you know how long you're going to leave it on for. If the song is like classical music, da, 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 you know I'm going to let it play for a long time. If I'm playing Swedish death metal, right,
Yes.
you're going to have about 13 seconds, so you better start drawing, right?
I told you the piece
So-
of music works.
It's absolutely. So I'm going to play different music, right? That music is going to tell you how long you have. Now I'm going to tell you ahead of time. The longest drawing that we have is going to last 2 minutes. That's the longest.
The shortest?
The shortest is going to be under 10 seconds.
What are we
But I'm going to tell. I know.
Slipknot? Is that what
But I'm going to tell you this. Okay, my promise to you is this. As you're drawing, you won't even realize how long it is. Because here's the thing. You have a lot of tools to fall back on. You still want to think in 3 dimensions. So do not. Your brain is going to want to. The first couple drawings, your brain's going to want to fall back. Okay, you're rushed. I got to do something just like with the fire drill, right? Your brain is going to say, go in the same pattern you always have. So your brain's going to say, okay, quick, just draw outlines. Who cares? It's not even grading this. No. Don't. Break your brain for a second. Tell that part of your brain to shut up. Because it doesn't know, right? Outline's bad, right? Instead, remember those core principles, right? Think about blocking in your object, right? Take the time. Think about comparative measurement, right? What's the width versus the height? Is there 2? Is there 3? Is there 8? Right? How tall is something versus how wide it is? You can draw very quickly in 3 dimensions if you block something in properly. Really, very, very quickly. If you have some time, you want to start thinking about maybe there's some cross contour, maybe there's some detail with this thing that I have to work out, to think about it in 3 dimensions, right? Maybe I want to smooth it out, right? Add on some detail, some shadowing. Maybe I get to that if I want to, right? There's a lot of different things we can get to in a particular amount of time. Maybe you're super rushed. You don't have any time. You got like 10 seconds. We're playing like, just insane death metal, and you're just like, okay, right? Takes less than 10 seconds. A continual line drawing is perfect for that, right? You know how to do a continual line drawing. Maybe you're so pumped that like as the object is being handed to you, you're already looking at the object before you even start. You just start drawing, and then you pull it in and you start drawing from it. That's a blind contour drawing, the thing we just did a second ago. All these tools are going to come into play, but the thing is this. I don't want you to think about them, right? I don't want you to sit here and be like, and now I will do a continual line drawing. Like, just draw. Let it flow from you. Because as that time crunches down, and it will crunch down very quickly, as that time crunches down, you're not going to have time to think about it, right? And you're going to break through some of those synapses in your brain. We're going to start making new paths in our brain. The last thing is this. Every time that music stops, I'm going to yell out, pass, or switch, or go, or something like that. What that means is, when that music stops, take your object and pass it to the next person. And we're going to keep a circle going in this direction, right? So, take a second, look to the person you'll be passing it to. Miss, when it gets to you here, I'm going to pick it up from you and pass it across the table, okay? So, we're passing our objects this direction, okay? No. All right, so we feel good? You shouldn't. Okay, here we go. We're going to play a game.